Tommy Beck, and you're listening to today's Boondoggle.
This is Mark Metcalf, and you are listening to today's Boondoggle with Bailey on Domain Cleveland Radio.
You are listening to today's Boondoggle with Bailey on Domain Cleveland Radio. Yes, Kato Kalin listens to this all the time.
Welcome to today's Boondoggle. Now, here's your host. Sonic Temple Art and Music Festival returns May 14th through 17th with My Chemical Romance, Tool, Bring Me the Horizon, and Shinedown. Plus, Pierce the Veil, Good Charlotte, The Offspring, Sublime, Godsmack, Breaking Benjamin, Marilyn Manson, and so many more. Sonic Temple in Columbus, Ohio, May 14th to 17th. Passes on sale now for as low as $1 down at sonictemplefestival.com.
What's going on, everybody? It's Bill Bailey with today's Boondoggle, and looking forward to this conversation I'm about to have with Mr. Charlie Bellmore of the band Eastblood, just to name one out of the many.
What's up, man? How you doing?
Good, man. How you doing?
Not bad, not bad.
Yeah, dude. So I was looking forward to having this conversation. There's definitely made quite an impact in the metal world. But first, usually when I have somebody on, I like to go way back. So do you remember as a kid what you originally wanted to be when you grew up?
A comic book artist, and then at 10 I got a guitar and I wanted to be a rock star.
Nice. What were some of your favorite comics back when you were a kid?
I was born in 1981, so I was into like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and I really liked the New Mutants because selfishly I was able to find a #1 of the New Mutants where, you know, even when I was little, I couldn't find a #1 of the X-Men because it was old. So I was like, oh, here's a #1. I could latch onto this, you know, and so yeah, it was a lot of that kind of like, oh, I'm an outcast, you know, all that kind of stuff. And I locked onto that a lot.
Nice. Yeah, the first tattoo I got when I was in the Navy is Wolverine.
Nice.
Big X-Men fan. And then you said at 10 you got a guitar, but what were some of your, like, even before that, what were some of the earliest music that you would hear around the house?
My dad was a bass player in like bar bands and stuff. So he grew up like right in the midst of Beatlemania. So he was always obsessed with Paul McCartney and those bass lines. And they both my mom and dad loved the Kinks. And then I apparently grew up in an alternate dimension, which I didn't learn until I was in high school, in which in my house the Talking Heads were kind of treated like they were the Beatles level, and my parents just adored the Talking Heads, and so I would listen to them all the time, and I'm like, oh wow, this is very innovative and interesting, and blah 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 blah. And then when I was in high school and stuff, I would say something about David Byrne or whatever, and nobody would know who it was. And that was when I was finally starting to go, oh, my parents liked something like, you know, Left of Center, you know, even though they were a popular band, it wasn't, Talking Heads weren't for everybody, you know?
Yeah. Remember that. And then what, like, kind of like inspired you to pick up guitar?
The thing that the most early inspiration was like the classics of your like Jimi Hendrix or your Stevie Ray Vaughan. I loved the blues. I still do. So I wanted to do a lot of that. And then I picked up the guitar and I was starting to play it. And I don't know, 6 or 8 months in, I'm like, okay, apparently you have to play a lot longer to be able to do all this stuff that, you know, like this Steve Ray Vaughan guy's doing stuff that I can't even comprehend. It's like rocket scientist compared to what I'm doing. And then I heard and then I heard a wonderful man on the radio by the name of Kurt Cobain, and I'm like, I think he's like just a couple weeks better than I am, so I could learn these songs. And I didn't realize that he was a very good songwriter at the time. I just heard something that was incredibly easy and able to latch onto, and so yeah, it all kind of started there, and then and Metallica and Alice in Chains were kind of minutes later, basically.
Gotcha. And then when did you start like getting out and playing playing live?
I was 16 when I started playing live.
And what was the scene like where you grew up at?
Let's see. I grew up in the New Haven hardcore scene in the mid '90s. The Northeast like hardcore thing was like huge then. My local band was the local like huge band was Hatebreed, which obviously I still work with Jamey and we're friends and everything. And then out of Massachusetts, there was a wonderful band called Overcast, and those members both split off to one guy left to go sing for Shadows Fall, and a couple of the other guys went over to start Killswitch Engage. Howard Jones, from the second singer of Killswitch, was in a band called Blood Has Been Shed that always played in Connecticut, and the band Terror, the hardcore band Terror, the band before that, Buried Alive with Scott Vogel on vocals, they played Connecticut all the time, and we got like the Candarias and the Dillinger Escape Plans and Cave In and Converge. Being in Connecticut when you're sandwiched in between Massachusetts and New York in like the late to mid '90s, you just got so much different kind of music. And we would go or play like a hardcore show, and it would be like, okay, like there's going to be this hardcore band playing, and then there's going to be like a ska band playing, and then like that death metal band Jungle Rot is going to play, and you're like, wait, what? And but to us, like, it was just normal because everybody was like, oh, okay, cool. Like, it was never even a thought. So yeah, we just kind of grew up in a very eclectic place, and one of my very close friends always says that I'm the most schizophrenic songwriter in the world. And I actually thought about that when I wrote the Eastblood record, because I was like, I have to not be schizophrenic and like try to focus on like the complete like psychopath kind of fast music that I've always really wanted to do, because I could very easily just start writing a piano ballad for no reason, and then you're like, oh, well, this is really good, and now we're not like a crazy, that we're not the crazy band that I wanted to be.
Nice. Yeah, and yeah, you mentioned working with Jamey and playing in Jasta. Last time I saw you in town, you guys played I think it was the Winchester for the Life of Agony show.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I was there. And yeah, I go way back with Jamey myself. In fact, I used to live with Florida Frank back when he lived here in Cleveland.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. And he got me introduced to the Hatebreed guys. And then when I was on my last deployment, Jamey actually sent a care package for me and a lot of the guys I was serving with and everything, from a bunch of Stillborn records and merch and stuff.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. And then, speaking of like, getting in that, form that relationship with Jamey, you also got to work with the legendary D. Snider. Want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, he's like, he's still like the easiest dude to talk to. We were finishing, my brother and I, my brother Nick played drums for the D. Snider thing and played drums on a lot of the Jasta records and produces everything. and we were both in the thrash metal band Toxic Holocaust, and we were on a tour. And the last show of the tour, I got a text message from Jamey saying, "Hey, you wrote this song for somebody else, and they didn't like it. It was called American Made. Do you remember that?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I remember American Made." And he said, "Where is it? What Dropbox file is it in? Because I'm gonna send it to I'm gonna send it to D Snider." And I'm like, "The D Snider, like from Twisted Sister?" And he's like, "Yeah. Why?" And I'm like, I was just assuming it was it was some other random guy like Dean Snider. Like I didn't expect actual D Snider." And he goes, "When are you guys available? We got to work on this idea because D kind of wants us to write heavy music." And literally the day after the tour, we were opening for Venom Inc. In Toxic Holocaust, and we drove home the next day and literally in the studio, and we cut American Made, and then we cut Tomorrow's No Concern. Both, I think they were both like the first two singles off the off For the Love of Metal, and I assumed that we would send them to D and we would never hear back. And then like 2 days later, I got a text saying, "Hey, D is in town and he wants to come and sing these songs like right now." And like we like all ran down to the studio, and dude just wanted to hang out. And he had just said like, "Listen, I think music has passed me by like creatively, but if you can write," he asked Jamey, "if you can write the lyrics, I'll sing them." And that's just what we did. And he just showed up and just destroyed. On the song American Made, if you go back and listen to it, the first thing he does is like this big scream like over the main riff, and like that was we didn't even retake it. That's still the first scream that he recorded like in our studio. It was just perfect, and we are like, "Oh, great." And um we just had so much fun. And he's like an East Coaster, so he busts chops just like everybody else on the East Coast does. And so we immediately kind of got along, even though we were 30 some odd years apart. It was immediately like a working relationship, and just a blast. Playing a like we did like a warm-up show in Israel, and then like the next day we were in Barcelona for like 40,000 people, and it's just like culture shock, just complete insanity. And Jamey Jasta can control an audience pretty damn well, but I've never seen somebody control an audience as good as D can. Had they had like had Twisted had another hit or two like in the late 90s, like he would be on all those top 10 lists as far as like best frontmen in the world. Because I mean, he wanted to tune all the songs down, but we would practice them in the original keys, and he was able to sing all of it. It was crazy. But he was like, "Oh, I want to sing them lower," and we were like, "Okay." And like, why? It sounds perfect. But he was worried he wouldn't be able to sing it, but he just crushed every time he played. Never made a goddamn mistake. It was nuts.
That's amazing, man. Prayers out to him, man, while he's dealing with his health stuff. And then you also got to play with Ohio's own Tim Ripper Owens. How did that relationship come together?
Yes, I did. Yeah. It was the exact same thing, like D, but with Ripper. My brother and Jamey and I kind of just became a little writing team, and we got to do the Tim Ripper Owens thing and the Corpse Grinder thing. We did those both kind of, one was during COVID and one was post COVID, and Ripper was just game. And I think Ripper might have changed some of the lyrics and stuff, but he was like, "I just want to do like really fast stuff and have some fun." And we would have a couple vocal ideas, and he would say, yeah, don't worry about it. Let me figure it out. And then he would send like 11 harmonies back with all these super high notes, and we'd be like, oh, I couldn't have thought of those. Like, I don't know how you did, but that was incredible. And he's just, again, another super friggin' down to earth guy. We got to be his band once, in for the first Milwaukee Metal Fest that we did with him in 2022 or 23. And just a super pro, and immediately just understood what he was there to do. He was there to play the new music, and he's like, I don't want to do a lot of old songs. I don't want to do covers. I just want to do this. And he was able to get that audience into it. I mean, we did push a couple Jugulator era songs because we are fans of that era of Judas Priest. But we did most of the songs on the EP, which was really awesome.
Nice. And then you also got to work with Kirk on Kingdom of Sorrow. Like, what was that experience like? I mean, going from like, you got D. Snider, you go Tim Ripper Owens, and then working with Kirk.
Kirk is like the craziest person in the world, but like in the best way. It always just feels like he's routinely out of his mind, and then he'll show up and he'll just have written some badass song, or he's just having a bad day and he's miserable, and then we get on stage and he's just like locked in like a monster. And for many years I always felt uncomfortable with the second guitar player on stage, because for years I was in like local hardcore bands and metal bands, and so it was still kind of that local talent pool. So there was always some risk, somebody might not be able to do it the right way. And then I went literally from that to Kirk Windstein from friggin' Crowbar, and just nailing all the songs on those Kingdom records, and just hitting them in the studio, and super down to earth and humble. He would just say, hey, you know what? Charlie's better at playing this kind of speed, so just have him play the guitar in this whole song. And so there's several songs on Behind the Blackest Tears that I play all the guitars, and then he'll like play just the guitar solo or whatever, because he's like, yeah, but I mean, we'll both play him live, but like Charlie can just do this in 5 seconds, so let's just have him do it. And the fact that a guy like he's like that level of a legend, and he's just like, yeah, just you play it. And at the time, I'm just some kid that he just met, that's playing in hardcore bands. And he's like, yeah, we'll just have him do it. It'll be great. And just complete trust. And you just realize how professional you suddenly have to be, because you're standing next to like a guy that many people look at like as a god,
Yeah. Now, you've mentioned your brother Nick a few times. Like, what was the, when you got your guitar at like 10 years old, like when did you and Nick start kind of playing together at the house or whatever? What were the earliest days like?
He got the drum set at the same time, and we're like 13 months apart, so we were very close, and all the kind of bickering and fighting kind of had to go away, because we realized that if we were fighting with each other, we wouldn't be able to play in a band together. So, I mean, most of our teenage years were just spent either in a basement or on a stage, just trying to get better and better. And he's just an absolute monster on the drums, and it's very funny because he'll play stuff that's not simplistic, but more simple. And then like we'll be in the studio, and he's like, oh, maybe I'll do something like this, and he'll just think of the craziest, like this crazy Dave Lombardo psycho fill, and it's amazing. And I'm like, yeah, keep do that fill. And then he just does a very simple fill. And I'm like, why do you never keep the crazy fills? And he's like, it doesn't feel right for the song. And so he's like one of those guys, he's like the old guy in the karate movies where he can kick your ass, but he's going to hang back and just
Charlie.
hammer away on the beat and do what's right for the song. And that was always kind of my inspiration for.
We're having some sort of connectivity issues. You keep breaking up. You're sounding like RFK Jr. I don't know what's going on with the connection.
Hold on, let me try to move my room here. Hold on.
And then you talked about, like you said, growing up and getting along with your brother, because you guys wanted to play together in bands and everything. You've done a lot together. You most recently were with In Many Eyes together, forming that and recording that. And now you have Eastblood. Let's talk a little bit about Eastblood coming together.
Eastblood was just like a dream that I've kind of had since like the D. Snider days, playing all these festivals with, and just fantasizing about and asking the question of why don't new guitar players, why aren't people doing the dueling guitar thing anymore? The old bands do it, but why aren't the new guys doing it? And like I love when it's two guys soloing and it's so fun. So when COVID hit and we were all just kind of sitting home, my daughter was born 2 months before COVID, so I'm really sitting home, and I wrote like, I don't know, one or two ideas, and I just sent it to Nick Petrino, who was also in the D band, and I just said, this was what I was thinking of for the dueling guitar idea. And he was also sitting home, and like 45 minutes later, he sent back like these shredding guitar solos, and he was like, you should put solos in between my solos. And we put those together, and then it was like this tiny little fantasy in the corner of our minds. And a couple of years ago, I finally said, okay, it's time. And asked my friend Chris, who I've known like 30 years, to play bass. And I had just met Rob from Generation Kill, and I asked him if he was interested in doing drums. And we got into the room and kind of learned the ideas that I had, and then kind of made them like our own ideas as opposed to just playing weird little computer demos. And I don't know, it feels like I've been doing the band for 15 years as opposed to, a couple shows.
Yeah. And what was the inspiration for the name?
The inspiration for the name is actually my concept. The East Coast people, I think, like us Northeasterners, we're like a different breed. Like, we're very fast talking. We're kind of crass. We really bust each other's balls. We'll say things that sound incredibly mean. And then, that same person that there's like one of my friends, whenever I play a show, I'll get on a microphone and be like, my good friend, Ron, recently passed away, but he decided to still come to the show. Look, everybody, give it up for Ron. And I would make fun of my friend Ron, and say,
Oh no.
to Ron. And I'm like, no, we're best friends. And if Ron called me and said, my car broke down at 2 a.m., like, I'm the first guy that goes out there and helps the guy. And there was just one day I was just thinking about all that kind of stuff. And I was like, yeah, it's the East, like Eastern blood. And then I was like, oh, and and I wrote down like, they've got that Eastblood in them, and it was just a line like that, like, and I thought like I would sing it in a song maybe, and um, I don't know, maybe 6 months later, all of a sudden, we were looking for band names, and it just hit my lips, going into, telling everybody else, and it just made so much sense.
Yeah, it sounded like you were describing my experience with in the military with that kind of relationships.
Oh yeah, I mean, a couple of my friends are firefighters, and like, meeting like a New York City firefighter. I went to a Yankees game with my dad and like 3 New York City firefighters, because one of my friends does like a charity, and he's like, "Oh, a bunch of firefighters are coming, but I wanted to give you these tickets." And I said, "Okay, sure." And we go, and I've never met these 3 people in my life, and it's, I don't know, maybe this time of year, it's not, it's like, but it's this kind of weather, it's 60 degrees or something, and it's like April, so it's early on in the baseball season, and I'm waiting outside with my dad, and these 3 guys walk up, and they're like, "Oh, are you Charlie?" And I'm like, "Yeah, Charlie." And he goes, "I'm sitting here, I got shorts on, I got a short sleeve shirt, and you got like a wool cap on and long sleeve. Like, what the hell's wrong with you?" And or immediately just teasing me, and um and I would think, and I've gone on tour with bands, like I went on tour with a band from the Midwest. I had to fill in, and the entire tour we were touring with a band from Providence, Rhode Island, and they would say the meanest stuff to me, and I'm yelling back, and they're like, "Oh," and my band that I was with, they'd be like, "Oh, do you have problems with them?" And I'm like, "No, why?" And they'd be like, "You guys are so mean to each other." And I'm like, "No, that's just how people from the East Coast talk."
Awesome. And then let's talk a little bit about your single Grift Witch. Like, what was the inspiration behind that?
Musically, the inspiration behind Griftwitch was, I had written a song. I wrote that song, but the riff didn't work. And then I just, I was telling Nick Petrino, our other guitar player, I said, we got to start writing songs that like we can't play. Like the guitar solos like have to be things that you aren't able to play, and you have to practice. And we were just kind of laughing about that. And then I was like, maybe I should take that approach to that opening riff. And I kind of hummed that idea into my phone, and it literally took me a week to play it right, like with the gallops where they were supposed to be, because it felt so foreign to me. Um and then once we got the whole thing together with all the guitar solos, we have 8 songs on our record that'll be out later this year, but this one felt like kind of like a mission statement, because it has all the thrash metal, it has the punk, it has the hardcore, it has the dueling solos, and then I have some, melodic stuff in the choruses. So it just kind of felt like a mission statement. So we were like, this has to be first. And lyrically, if you're interested, it's essentially just about, um, I don't know, it's about people that, kind of abuse other people's trusts, like grifters, like the modern day, like political grifters that they'll get in trouble, they'll be doing whatever, and then they say like, "Oh, it's not my fault, it was actually these political activists, they're against me." And then they just say that they're on the other side now, and then the other side decides to prop them up because they're saying, I'm a victim. And and it's not just one side, it's all sides. They love propping people up, and it's like this, we have this ridiculous culture now with, it just feels very, very childish, and like, I guess trolling would be the word. Feels like it feels like a lot of politicians do a lot of things to troll each other, which is really sad because they act like 13-year-old girls and they're supposed to be running parts of our country. But
Yep.
it's a lot of that kind of stuff, just about when you lose everything in your life because you're a failure, you can always tell a certain amount of a certain amount of people on one side or the other that you're with them, and they'll just buy into it, hook, line, and sinker.
Yeah, I agree, man. I've been a pro wrestling fan since I was a kid, and I pretty much like it, like in modern day politics to professional wrestling these days. It's like, you either like this guy, you cheer for this side, or you boo this side. They go out there, they say all their crap to each other, but they go back to the same locker room and get paid by the same special interests and stuff.
Oh, I'm also a gigantic wrestling fan, and do you know the wrestling term a double turn?
Yeah.
So for those listening, a double turn is like when a good guy and a bad guy go into a match, and during the events of the match, the good guy leaves the match after the match as the bad guy, and the bad guy leaves the match as the good guy. And I have made so many jokes over the last like 15 years, and I'm just like, politicians keep doing double turns. I mean, there was literally a point. I mean, what, early 2000s, Republicans wanted to go to war, Democrats didn't want to go to war. And then, like, there was a point where when what's his foot, Donald Trump first got in, he was anti-war, and then it was like the Democrats had to do a double turn, and now they were like, no, we need to go into this country, and I was like, what what is going on right now? Why does
Yep.
professional wrestling, like, why does the Undertaker make more sense than these people?
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
very it's very frustrating. And I mean, like, yes, there are things you could do. Like you and I could both run for local office and do all that kind of stuff. But there is a lot of that mentality of like, yeah, I mean, what can you do? Like, I don't really know what you can do. And I'm of the mind where, sure, I could try to run for office and fix things like in my local neighborhood or whatever. But I grew up playing guitar. I think I'm pretty stupid. Like, I'm trying to, I want somebody smarter than me handling stuff. Like, if it's somebody's as smart as me and they're working in the government, I'm scared because like I don't know anything. And um my wife will always say like, oh, you're so smart, you don't understand. And I'm like, listen, if I could pay my bills, like if I could just like instead of a check of money, like I could explain to you like the difference between these comic book characters, or like, an Allosaurus and a Tyrannosaurus from when I learned in fourth grade, like, yeah, I would be like a goddamn genius. But I mean, whoever said like music and math go together are liars. I cannot, like, I was literally just going through my daughter's math homework. She is 6. And I looked at it and I'm reading it and I just said, you know what? Mommy will be home in a little bit. We can mommy's gonna do this question. And my daughter she figures it all out on her own. And I mean, some of the words she can't even read, but she's like, oh no, you have to do this and do that and do this. And I'm like, oh, thank God you got your math from your mom, because like, I don't know. It just becomes this jumble. My later on in life, like I have a therapist and they're like, I think you may have some sort of like a reading disability. Yeah, something like that. Like, what's the thing where you see everything backwards or whatever?
Dyslexia.
Yeah, she's like, you might have some form of that, and like the way you describe it, but like, I mean, I'm almost 45. Like, I'm not gonna fix it. I just know what I'm good at, and I know what I'm bad at, and luckily with music, I'm good at that.
Yeah, exactly. And then going back to the double turn, perfect example: Bret the Hitman Hart versus Stone Cold Steve Austin.
I mean, it's the greatest. I think it's the greatest WWF or E match. Like, it was I don't know if there's a better match than that match, quite frankly.
Oh yeah, yeah, that was amazing. And then yeah, like you were saying, like, you know what? I guess the only thing that I try and do, like I mean, I consider getting into local politics. In fact, somebody I served with is my mayor right now. You
Oh,
know,
that's
and
awesome.
he's good at it. You know, he's a great speaker. He's good at what he's doing, and you know, and I got behind him and support him, campaign with him and everything. You know, I don't know if I had to, you know, I would rather not, but I would still like to at least talk about the things that I feel are wrong and bring attention to it, that things that people are ignoring. Like, you know, there's just so much division. And so it's like, if you critique or criticize one thing that one person's doing, then right away, everybody broad brushes you as, oh, you must be a liberal or you must be a MAGA or whatever, you know? And it's just like, man, no, I just maybe think critically and I can kind of see, you know, what.
Yeah, I'm a nerd. I was born a nerd. Like my parents in 1976 for their honeymoon went to a Star Trek convention. I am a first generation like super nerd, and like I grew up watching Star Trek The Next Generation because I was born in 1981, and when that show started, like it was like my parents were like, "Oh my god, there's a new Star Trek. We have to watch it." And the growing up and just going, oh, so this is a future where we all decide, like we won. We all got together and now we're just trying to be better people. And when I was a little kid, I was like, this makes the most sense to me. And like anytime somebody will say something, whichever the argument is, I always just try to understand them and I think that's the best way to live life. And it's less than it's less important to for me. It's less important to like take one specific side, and it's more important to take the side of like actual human beings. You know, and
Yeah.
so yeah. I mean, you know, I know we're getting a little heavy on social issues or whatever, but I mean that's just you know how it is.
Yeah, I get it. And it's funny you mentioned Star Trek because actually this weekend here in Cleveland, Fan Expo Cleveland's in town, and Kirk and Riker are going to be there. You know, so
Oh man, like I got to meet Riker. I embarrassed the living crap out of him. I don't. Did you ever watch that show? I don't know. I don't want to go deep into it if you never watched the show.
occasionally, but I wasn't like, you know, I mean, I grew up more of the original Star Trek. You know.
What I met him. I was with my ex-wife, and I go up and I say, I just had to come meet like the greatest stud in the history of space travel. And he was like, "Oh, you're being ridiculous." And I said, I mean, there's literally an episode of Star Trek where they meet a genderless society, and this person meets Riker and becomes a woman. And I'm like, it's like literally the funniest idea, like that he's just such a stud, like a society that has no gender the person just becomes a woman. Like I got to get on this, man.
That's awesome. That's
But
awesome.
it's I don't know. I love all that nerdy stuff, and um, I try to drop it into songs. There's on the full record. There's a couple little nerdy things that I drop in there. Just because it's all my lyrics mean something and they're normally personal, but I try to have fun with lyrics because I don't know, like I grew up in the grunge era, and like as much as I love Alice in Chains, like those are the most depressing lyrics I've ever heard in my life. And so if I'm going through a hard time, I want to try to find a way to make it a little fun at the same time.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, I wanted to get back to speaking of the album, you know, so Shauna doesn't get upset with us, you know, veering off course. But the album's going to be called "Burn What's Left." What's the inspiration for that name?
Um, the the idea I ended up having 1,000 ideas. And really quick, we do have a second song out now that just came out last week called "Away." So anybody listening could check out the song "Away" as well. But the original idea for the album was because I wrote all the lyrics in a very like dark time, trying to figure out my life, and the original idea for the title was like like the end, or like the light, like the light you see, going down, when you're dying or whatever. It comes for us all. So what are we going to do with the time that we have left? And because all the songs have some sort of internal struggle on it, because I was really going through it. So the idea of it is just, we should just burn the time that we have left, and just deal with our issues, and not try to live in the past, and just go forward and fix ourselves.
Dude, I love that, man. That speaks to me. I'm in recovery. I just celebrated 17 years sober. And
that is awesome. Congratulations.
Thank you. And that's like, that's what I'm trying to do, man. I for the longest time I would stay stuck in like some of the shame and guilt of the things I did in the past during my addiction, and even sober, but every day I just try and be a little bit better than I was yesterday,
Yeah, I mean, it's very funny. I went to a therapist years and years ago, and I don't know, I just wasn't ready for it. And I was in that band Many Eyes. It didn't work out. My brother stayed in the band. It was just, if you start a band in the basement, a couple weeks in, maybe you're like, I don't know if Larry is going to work, and it happens like that. But we had that entire like first real month of being a band, like in person. We were opening for friggin' Thursday and everything. So it felt like it was a real band already, but we were still feeling each other out, and it just didn't work. And so I was bummed out for a month or two or whatever. And then I was happy again. And I was like, I'm really glad that my brother is still in the band, and I'm excited the record's going to come out. We did some great work on it. And then I just was like, why am I still so angry, though? Because I'm not upset about this anymore. And I went to a therapist, and we just like, she was like, okay, so you never talked. Did you ever go to therapy for these 5 issues that you're telling me about right now? And I was like, no. And she's like, well, that's why you're still mad, Charlie. You never dealt with any of this stuff from your childhood, or from your teenage years or whatever. And that whole band thing just let your other issues out for some air. It has nothing to do with it. And I was like, oh, okay. And normally I would just be like, oh, I'm a tough man, I'm just going to figure it out. But like, I have a beautiful daughter. I live with a beautiful woman. And then she has a now 13-year-old girl that I've known since she was, I think, 6 as well. And I'm just in a house with women, and I'm like, I can't be like the scary, angry man in these women's lives, and like you gotta, like, true like macho-ness, like I feel like isn't the performative side of it, and it's like the internal side.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, you're definitely speaking to me there. I have 2 daughters. In fact, my oldest is 25 now. And she, when she was 8, I came home from my deployment, had my last blackout at Peabody's Down Under, and ended up, waking up hungover, and she like made me pinky swear that I would stop living like that. I didn't want to live like that anymore, dude. And ended up in the rooms.
How can you say I can't do it to that? That's what you got to
exactly. do. So I ended up in the rooms of recovery, and I've been working a program now. And what's been beautiful about that is, like, I had an old sponsor say the good news is you're going to start to feel again, and the bad news is you're going to start to feel again. I had to become emotionally, I have to do some emotional growing up, and there's still things that get me once in a while. But what I love about some of the group of men, I try and do mostly like stag meetings and stuff. But the guys that I get to just be vulnerable, man, and get stuff off my chest that's bothering me and find out that I'm not unique, that there's a lot of guys that carry a lot of heavy weight because we feel like we got to be the tough guys for everything, but we feel shit too.
Yeah, I mean, literally, that's the entire the entire Eastblood record is just that, because I've the idea of, I mean, again, I was born in 81, so like my idea of like what a man was like obviously superheroes, and then real life superheroes, and like Arnold Schwarzenegger and like the Legion of Doom, and like all these gigantic meat piles, these huge muscle men.
Yeah.
And so like I got older and I'm fine. I'm fine. And it was just always that kind of I'm fine thing. And at some point, I really got into certain like a bit like Bill Burr and other comedians that like kind of are like dealing with their anger and through their comedy, and just random comedians would say stuff, and it would affect me, and it would make me think more about how maybe I approach that or whatever. And then once I had my daughter, she did something one day when she was like, I don't know, 2 or whatever, and it was the exact same like pissed off thing that I would do, like just angrily threw something at the ground because nothing would work or whatever. And like it really messed me up. And then like when everything got out to air a few years ago, I was like, all right, I gotta go fix this, because I don't want to pass this on. You gotta you
Yeah.
got to fix yourself. And that's I'm doing it. You're doing it with your recovery, and I'm just doing it with music.
Yeah. Yeah. We break the cycle, man, for our next generation, man. And I well, I wanted to ask you too, I mean, everything you've done in the music world, you even had at some points you've been a tour and a band manager. What was that experience like? And you'd prefer just playing than handling all those responsibilities?
um yeah, I would probably just prefer playing, but I'm pretty good. The joke is I'm like pretty good at herding cats, basically, because that's what working with a bunch of musicians are. And you can like give them like a book that says every single date and what the hotels are and what's this and then that, and then you're in the bus or the van or the whatever, and somebody will go, hey, where are we staying tomorrow? And it doesn't matter. It's just once you show somebody else that you can do it, like there's a mental thing where they're just like, I'm gonna trust you. And I am good with that trust. But like when we did the D Snider thing, I was the musical director, so I would make sure the band practiced and all that kind of stuff. But he has a famous manager. I mean, the guy used to manage Led Zeppelin, for Christ's sakes. And then he has a tour manager and a booking agent, and they're all legit guys. And I didn't have to do anything, and it was so much better.
I bet you just had to focus on playing.
Yeah, and it was definitely a blast. But yeah, I like all of it. There's just something about, I'm just one of those guys where showing up to a new town all the time is fun for me.
And I especially with what we've just been talking about, with what we're realizing as we get older and learning about ourselves and how we're trying to be better people. How rewarding is it for you to be, a guitar teacher and working with students?
It's really awesome. And like if somebody's listening to this and they have a question about music, and you ask me on social media, I'm probably going to send like a 19 paragraph thing back. And it's solely because if any musician would have responded to me when I was a kid, it would have helped me immensely. And um, music, it's not just about being some famous that's like a thing that nobody really gets to do. But like writing songs and just playing. I mean, I know people that have very, very happy lives, and they're just like playing covers, like in a bar or whatever. Music just makes people feel good, and we've got to appreciate that. So anytime I can help somebody else appreciate music, and even if you're just really awesome at 8 songs, and you leave me a student, and you go off to play in your little life and you have kids and all this stuff, and when you play those 8 songs for those 25 minutes, you're like the one of the best musicians in the world. What's better than that? It doesn't matter. Like, you get in front of people and you play, and it's just an awesome connection.
Yeah. It's funny too, because, this coming Monday, I'll be turning 53 years old, and I just signed up for this organization called Guitars for Vets, where they kind of teach a veteran how to play guitar. And then at the end, they give him, once they graduate, they give them their own guitar and everything. So,
Oh, that's awesome.
it's, I've never played, but looking forward to learn. Like you said, it just, there's something about music. Music's been like a good escape for me. And now trying to teach my brain how to play. I'm looking forward to that experience as well,
Well, I wish you luck, and I will say I've had a lot of students over the years that were in their late 40s or 50s, and they seemed to appreciate it the most because they aren't kids. So those 45 minutes every 2 days that they pour their heart and soul into it. Where like a little kid, they're going to pick up the guitar and they're going to play it, but they might not digest it as much because in their minds they're like, well, I got all day to do this, so it's not the same. And you learn a different way when you get older, but I think that you'll probably appreciate the time that you have with it.
Awesome. Charlie, now before we get ready to wrap up, I know we went over the 30-minute mark, but we've been having a good conversation.
Yeah, don't worry about it.
Yeah. What I want to ask you some of the questions that I normally ask my guests, but real quick for Eastblood, for people that are new to hearing about or want to check out Eastblood, where would you send them?
You could go to Bandcamp or Instagram or Facebook. It's all Eastblood Band, and for streaming, just write in Eastblood Griftwitch or Eastblood Away, and you'll see our artwork pop up in all the streaming websites, and there we are.
Awesome. Now, like I said, I want to ask you some of the questions I normally ask guests that I have on. We talked about some of your early inspirations in music, but who are the top 3 artists you're listening to today?
Top 3 artists I'm listening to today. Oddly enough, there's a band that's been out for a while. I didn't listen to them that much, but I've been listening to them more recently. There's like a two-person duo that's kind of like hardcore and also punk. It's called it's like 68. It's like apostrophe 68. And they're just a very kind of unique little band. And I listened to them maybe 10 years ago for a bit, and I recently kind of fell back in, and it just clicks. It's very inspiring. And and then a band that I've loved forever, that I've been listening to a ton recently, is Quicksand with Walter from Gorilla Biscuits, and later on from Rival Schools. But Quicksand was kind of the band that kind of changed like music for me, like the idea that hardcore and punk and everything were you could be melodic with it all. And and then for a more recent band, there's a really fast kind of gross band called Ingrown, which I really like.
Nice. And then what class do you feel should be mandatory before graduating high school today?
Nowadays, civics, because apparently they don't teach it, and, and it seems terrifying.
Yeah, exactly. And then who are three people who've inspired you and you can credit for making you the person you are today?
We talking like famous people or people
No,
I
just
know?
people along in your life that have inspired you or you can credit for who you are today.
I would probably say my Uncle Bud, rest in peace. He he was kind of like my brother and I, like our second dad. He's my mom's brother, and he just like loved music, so it would just jazz us up. He loved music as uh, just as a listener. So hearing it, like my dad liked it from a more critical standpoint, and then he liked it just as more of a super fan, and it really got a lot of our juices flowing when we were kids. He died when we were like maybe 20 or something, but he was a big one for me. And then later on in my life, I would say Jamey Jasta. Jamey Jasta is just this super hardworking, inspiring person. He will text you the wackiest idea in the world, and you'll say like LOL, yeah, sounds like a great idea, and you'll go, I'm never going to hear about that again. And then 2 days later, you're talking with a TV producer because we're planning to make a TV show or something, whatever the heck it is. But he's just such a goddamn hard worker. It's always inspired me. I always try to have as many song ideas when I go in to write with him, just because he'll have 1,000, and it's just very inspiring to be around. And I would say the third is my partner, Jenna. I knew her in elementary school and middle school and high school, and then we both went our separate ways, and we came back into each other's life at a certain point. And the idea that I was allowed to like we talked about before, the idea that I was allowed to be vulnerable as a man and all that kind of stuff. She's probably the only person that's ever told me that that was kind of okay. So I would say her as well.
That's awesome, man. And yeah, speaking of Jasta, he's actually legit one of the inspirations for me to do this podcast, to get into the podcasting thing.
That's awesome.
And then are there any causes or organizations that you support and encourage others to check out?
Gee. Off the top of my head, I would probably say, oh God, what is the name of it? I've supported Elton John's HIV Foundation a bunch, and I always try to support whichever local, animal hospital or whatever. Now I live in New York City now, so I always support the North Shore Animal Hospital, and try to just, pets to me are awesome. And there's no dog has ever started a nuclear war, so I think we should save them. I think if cats had the ability, they would, but dogs would never. And
Yeah.
so I think it's important that we should be nice to animals and help them and support any sort of animal hospital that needs the help, and animal shelter.
Yeah, agreed, man. I just had to put my my service dog down last month, man, and it was dude, talk about being vulnerable. I was so grateful for some of the rooms and groups of men I got to just cry with, and
It never gets
feel the love.
easier.
No, not at all, man. And then favorite toy as a child.
Oh, favorite toy as a child, I would say, oof, damn, that's a hard one. I would probably say uh, um, my Megatron toy, for the Transformers.
Nice.
My parents did. I think they thought it was easy, but they gave my brother all of the good guy toys for whatever the company, whatever the thing was, and they gave me all the bad guy toys. And so yeah, I probably Megatron or maybe Soundwave, the tape deck. One of those
Oh
two
yeah,
were
I
always
remember
fun
him.
for me.
And then we talked about wrestling already earlier, and I haven't got to ask this question in a while. But who was your favorite wrestler?
I gotta go Stone Cold, honestly.
Awesome. And then any message that you have for our military members currently serving overseas?
Be safe, be smart, and just know that it ain't, it's not Vietnam or whatever. We know, like, everybody here, as much as we might disagree with whatever regime is currently running our country, we don't blame you guys for doing it. We really appreciate you, thick and thin, through thick and thin.
Awesome. Charlie, man, it's been great talking with you, man. It was a good conversation. I'm glad we got to connect. Before I let you go, you mind doing me one last favor?
Yes.
Mind cutting a promo ID for the show? Just introduce yourself, and you're listening to Today's Boondoggle.
Today's Boondoggle. Okay, sure. Hey, what's up? This is Charlie Bellmore from the band Eastblood, and you're listening to Today's Boondoggle.
Awesome. Charlie, thanks a lot, man. It was a good conversation. Good talk with you. Hopefully Eastblood will come through Cleveland, or I'll just catch you next time with Jasta or something.
Yeah, with any luck, by the end of this year, Eastblood will be out on the road.
Awesome, dude. We'll look forward to connecting with you.
Awesome.
All right, listen up. Hold on to your seats. Grab your girls, grab your beers.
Hey everybody, this is Charlie from Anthrax, and you are listening to Today's Boondoggle.
This is Mark Metcalf, and you are listening to Today's Boondoggle with Bailey, Domain, Cleveland Radio.
You are listening to Today's Boondoggle with Bailey on Domain Cleveland Radio. Yes, Kato Kalin listens to this all the time.
Welcome to Today's Boondoggle. Now here's your host.
I am Monty Heath, so one Heath, and you are listening to Today's Boondoggle.
Hey, what's up? It's John from Skillet, and you are listening to Today's Boondoggle on Domain